I really take joy in helping people buy houses. Most people use the social media platforms as a builder. Make it all about the audience versus about me or my business. How can I create content that is valuable to people whether or not they're in the market to buy a house? The beautiful thing, right, is if you can create an ad that doesn't look like an ad, it's so valuable that people share it. You don't need to spend any money on ads.
How much business are you getting from your social media?
We're getting a lot.
You don't shy away from going $20,000 mastermind groups and stuff.
I invest more money than my wife would like to know.
Armando Novelo, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited to be here.
I'm excited too. And, I've binge watching your content for the last few days. And today we're going to talk about your content. We're going to talk about your career as a mortgage officer. And we're going to talk about your journey, your story. So let's start from the beginning. Where did you grow up? And how did you get into the mortgage business?
Yeah, so I guess I grew up kind of all over the place, mostly in the East LA area. But I got really lucky when I went to college. I got introduced to a mortgage loan office, like a mortgage broker. And she offered me a job that was literally like maybe a quarter mile from the school. So I got to even park at the office and walk to school sometimes. It was really, really, I guess it worked out really well. But it was one of those things where I kind of fell in love with the industry. And even though I completed school, I just never followed my career path with the psychology degree that I got. And I've been doing mortgages ever since. And it's, I don't know if it's maybe because of my experience. I always kind of coin it back to this. But when I was a kid, we moved around a lot. And moving around so much caused instability. But one thing that it really did for me is I was always behind in school. I don't know if maybe somebody watching this, when you move in the middle of a school year, like the schools are not aligned with the curriculum. So either you're a little bit of ahead or a little bit behind. But I was constantly moving where I always felt like I was behind. But I didn't realize I'm behind. When you're a kid, you don't think that way. So I didn't think I'm behind because I just moved. So part of me started thinking I'm behind because I'm dumb. I'm always behind. And really interesting thing, when I was about 14, I was in 8th grade, my mom finally bought her first house, right? Like she was a single mother, bought her first house. And for the first time, I went to the same school all 4 years, right? So I did high school, my 4 years of high school at the same high school. And one thing that I realized is it's not that I'm dumb. It's that I was always kind of trying to catch up. So for the first time, those 4 years, I felt that I was actually kind of smart. But I also realized that it's a matter of the effort that I put into it, and I always kind of equate her buying her first house with stability in my life shifting. So I think that I really take joy in helping people buy houses because I feel like, well, if we hadn't done it, who knows where I would have ended up, right? Maybe.
Right. Yeah. And, when you buy a house, there's a sense of relief, sense of, okay, this is permanent. I know that people sell their houses eventually, but at least for that time that you live in that house, you feel a sense of calmness. And I happen to experience it recently, with this house that we have here. And it is a completely different feeling. You feel that, oh, this wall needs painting. I want to paint it because this is my house, right? And that feeling of ownership, of belonging to that place and building memories and stories in that place is important so much for a lot of people, just for mental health and for feeling good about your life and yourself. And it's also a testament that you're successful to a certain degree. I mean, it's a privilege to be a house owner. But I'm just curious about you when you did a psychology degree out of all degrees. It has nothing to do with finance or money or any of that nature. So you had to go and learn everything from scratch?
Yeah, so I think when I started college, I was a different person than when I finished college and my career goals. And I'll just honestly speaking, part of me staying in the mortgage business was a little bit of greed, right? In 2005 to 2007, we made a lot of money doing mortgages. And, coming from a single mother background where we struggled for, just basic things and financially it was a challenge, being in an industry that allowed us to make so much money was very appealing to me back then. So really, I kind of came in for the wrong reasons, but I think that as I got older, I evolved and I've stayed in for the right reasons, if you will.
Right. And then what happened? Okay, so you made a little bit of money. The career was rewarding. So what prompts you into, let's say, starting your Instagram, your social media presence, and doing that great work that you're doing there? What was that trigger that say, oh, I gotta be on social media?
So I think I was always on social media, but like many of us, we tend to use social media as a billboard, right? Especially in real estate. Like if your audience or even you, if you follow anyone who's in real estate, most people use the social media platforms as a builder. Look at what I just did, I just sold, or my new listing. And those things, it might be okay, but it doesn't always work, right? And this might be a little long-winded, but I hope it helps somebody who's watching it. If you think of how a social media platform works, like, so there's this dealership that I used to follow. It's called Southern California Motorcycles. And before I bought my motorcycle, I watched every single one of their videos. They post pictures of somebody that just bought their motorcycle, and it's very exciting. And I would always engage with them because I was in the market for a motorcycle. And then the day finally came where I got my bike. And they posted the picture with me in front of the store with the bike, and it was all cool. But what I noticed is that a week later, their posts were not as exciting to me. And a month later, I wouldn't even see their post. And 3 months later, I actually unfollowed the page. And the same thing happens to our clients. If my content is constantly, look at interest rates, look what's going on in the market, some people that are not in the market, like me no longer in the market for a motorcycle, will stop engaging with my content. So what I started to do when I realized that is, how can I create content that is valuable to people, whether or not they're in the market to buy a house? So they always watch my content. And what I started to do is just offer things that are like super valuable. Even if someone is not my client, they're not in the market of buying a house, maybe I can bring one of my friends who's a lawyer and teach a class on, just staying out of tax trouble, or the 1031 exchange, or whatever it is, like probate. And we can invite people all of the time, whether or not they're buying a house, to learn and improve. And that kind of came from, I think, from my journey of like growing up with a single mom. My mom struggled, right? We didn't have money. We didn't know the rules. And I always heard her like crying a little bit and just being frustrated because the money situation didn't work for us, or the finance game. We always struggled in that. And I always thought, man, when I get older, I'm going to learn what rich people do. And then I'm going to teach the normal person how to do that, right? So I kind of became like obsessed with tax code and like with the tax loopholes and just like the tricks of the rich, if you will, right? So people kind of get upset and say, well, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos, they don't pay their fair share. But I always think, like, how can we learn what they do so we don't pay our fair share, right? And then how can I teach that to the average person that maybe doesn't even know tax loopholes exist, right? So that's kind of where my content ideas came from. And I learned I met some really smart people that I got to piggyback from and learn from. And I mean, everything that I do, I think, is like building on a mentor or somebody who guided me to get there, right? And then we take their ideas and fix them. It was that.
But what's the goal? Like, okay, again, there's a lot of mortgage offices out there. None get what you get. None build what you build. So, showing your face. And I know the effort that goes into your content. We're going to dissect your content in a little bit. It takes a lot of effort and hard work to get to that point. Why don't you just said, oh, I'm just like any other mortgage officer. I'm just going to do what they do. Let's leave this social media for the dancing people on TikTok.
Yeah. So about 4 years ago, after the pandemic and everything, we realized that, like, in our business, there's a couple of ways that you can generate business, and it probably works for every business owner. But if you break it down to the lowest level, for me, is I can get business by working 7 days a week, sitting at open houses, doing all of those old things, right? Real estate agents call you all the time or door knock. And I just felt like when you chase people, you push them away, right? And I wanted to figure out a way to attract people rather than chasing people. And I think that's the future. Like, if you think of the world that we live in, we pay extra money so that we don't have to watch commercials on Hulu, right? But the average loan officer, like if you ask me why I don't do what the average loan officer does or the average real estate agent, their content or the way they market or their brand is all about being salesy, because that's what we've been taught. We've been taught, and even the memes tell you, right? Always be closing, you got the hustle thing, right? But our consumers don't want to see that. So if your content looks like an ad, the first thing they're going to do is scroll past you. And the way that the platforms work, whether it's TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, they want to keep eyes on the screen because then they can sell more ads. So if your content keeps eyes on the screen, they're going to reward you for it and show it to more people. So what I try to do is I try to create content that's going to keep eyes on the screen. But if the content is salesy, like a commercial, it won't work. So then what we started to do is we started to create content. We call it top of funnel content. This is just content that's going to get people to know, like, and trust me. We're not selling anything because that's where people get pushed away. So what I started to do is just create content that gives massive value, whether it's to the person watching who's a first-time buyer, or it's the real estate agent who is kind of struggling to generate business, or a small business owner who's trying to improve their business in whatever they do. I just want to give value, and my goal is that I give so much value that when the time comes and they want to buy a house or they know someone, they think of me because I've been helping them grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can see that you're using marketing terminologies, top of funnel, etc. And when you look at your content, it's clear that there's so much intention in structuring it. Every second of your reels has a purpose. It's counting for something. You start with a great hooks. Your hooks are phenomenal. Then you follow with delivering on the promise of that hook. And then you end with a call to action. Download this list, comment something, and I'll send it to you, etc. Who taught you all of that? You're a mortgage officer with a psychology degree.
Yeah. So my joke is that I'm a marketer who does mortgages, and the psychology just helps me understand how people think, right? I know Elon Musk is not very popular today, but if you break down how he thinks, I've been very interested in Elon before he became controversial. He breaks everything down to the smallest possible, like the lowest level, and then he tries to reconstruct it with as little complication as possible. So I try to break those things down as well. If we know that the platform wants to keep eyes on it, then I don't want to be long-winded, right? Because if somebody watches my video all the way through, then the platform's going to say, this is a good video, let me show it to more people. So you're absolutely right, and that's a great observation, is every word in our script is put there for a reason. If it's not necessary, we remove it. Because the opposite, and you're probably watching this, when I'm not scripted, I tend to say a lot of words, right? So when I am scripted, I want to narrow it down.
All right, so you script every piece of content.
Everything that goes out is scripted.
All right, this prompts me to ask you, tell us the process. Let's say, first of all, do you have like a certain day of the week that you post? Are you consistent when it comes to the timing? When do you post?
Yeah, so our goal is to post 3 times a week. It doesn't always happen. Like sometimes I get really busy with business and I stop doing what got me the business. But the goal is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday we want to post. I don't schedule posts because I read somewhere that the app doesn't like it. So I literally go in at 6:30 in the morning, I put the post up, and then I engage with people when they respond. I've noticed that 6:30 works for me. It could be different for other people because I believe that people wake up in the morning and they look at their phone. And if you watch like your team when they get to work, they always look at their phone like before they start working. And then they look at their phone again at lunchtime. So I want to capture all of the waves. People waking up, people at 8:30 in the morning when they get to work, at 12 noon at lunchtime when they get to work, and then 5 p.m. when they're getting home, and then before they go to sleep, there's another wave. If you post it at night before they go to sleep, by the time your normal audience wakes up, it may have lost this steam, right? So, and I could be wrong on that. I don't have any actual data, but that's how I've done that. And then I try to do 3 top of funnel posts. So top of funnel is I'm not asking for anything, I'm just giving value. And then for every 3 top of funnel stuff, then I'll try to do 1 call to action. But the call to action needs to be very soft, right? We want to give people the solution to a problem that maybe they didn't know they had. And we do that by just being very careful with how we craft the scripts. And you're right, there is a hook because their attention span's very, very slow. So when they're looking, you have to stop the scroll, right? And if you think like when you're scrolling through social, like if it doesn't stop the scroll, you just go past it, right? So the hook, we want people to stop the scroll. And I guess the framework that we use for that is like hook story solution or hook problem solution. And sometimes your hook can be the problem and then you're going to give the solution, right? And if you're gonna have a call to action, then it's hook, story, and then your offer is a call to action, right? Like comment for a guide or comment for a list.
But you're also your content. You shoot in multiple locations. You use a lot of props. You'll be like doing something as you're talking. And so, how long does it take to produce one piece of content?
It depends on what we're doing. So if we're going on location, I used to do just talking head where I would sit in front of the desk and talk. But what I found is that after a few talking head videos, when people are scrolling, they think, oh, I've already seen this because it all looks the same. So what we started to do is we started to change at least the first 3 seconds where we're somewhere on location or doing something that people are like, what is this guy doing? So there's one, I don't know if you saw, where my brother is literally wheeling me in a wheelbarrow and I'm in the wheelbarrow delivering the script. That got really good feedback because like, why is this guy in a wheelbarrow, right? So sometimes we do some outrageous things to stop the scroll and then follow through with good content and concise.
And just for context, could you tell the audience what are your metrics right now? Like how, at the time of the recording, we are here in beginning of April 2025. What are your follower count, your reach, your engagement? Like, do you have any like maybe rough estimate of what you can tell what you have achieved and how long have you been doing this?
Yeah, so I started doing this maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, but I didn't really like. So if anyone wants to create content, like it's hard to get it going, right? I think the platform needs to figure out who your audience is, and then the platform wants to do the work for you. Because if they find you the right audience, they're going to get people to stay on the app. So really, just like a year ago is when I started to see results where people started to message me saying, "Hey, I want to hire you, or I want to do business with you." Lately, like the last 3 months have been very, very exciting for us. We've been asked to, maybe the last 6 months, I've been asked to speak at events. I've been asked to teach this. I've been asked to be on multiple podcasts like this. So it's cool because it begins to snowball once you do it so much. But I'll tell you, for the first 2 years, there were days when I was thinking, like, why am I doing this, right? Like, why? And to answer your other question, well, during the week, I always write down any questions that anyone asks me, right? So if a client asks me, hey, how do we do this? How do we do this? And when we get multiple questions, it means that there are other people that have that question, right? And even if you're outside of the mortgage business, like if you sell shoes, for instance, it's just random. There's a website called answerthepublic.com where you can go in and type any topic. And this website tells you what people are searching for on Google or any search engines that in relation to your topic. So if you type in like women's shoes, it'll tell you what people are searching for in terms of women's shoes. And then you can create content to answer those questions. Because if a lot of people have that same question and you answer it, chances are it's going to perform well, right? So Answer the Public is a good one. Or just think of any questions that people ask you. I just write them down in a notepad. And then at the end of the week, usually Friday nights, I'll put together some ideas on how I can create content around that.
Yeah, but I'm curious to know, like, I know Instagram, I've been binge watching Instagram. Are you on other channels, and how many followers / reach? I saw some of the reels have like 500,000 views.
Yeah, we've had some that have done well. So
are these organic, right?
Those are all organic, yes. So funny, we posted one and we thought it was going to be an ad, and before we can run the ad, it went viral. So I think we ended up spending $23, but that one got close to 1 million views. So it's great if you. So that's the beautiful thing, right? Is if you can create an ad that doesn't look like an ad, and it's so valuable that people share it, you don't need to spend any money on ads. So I think right now on Instagram is where I've had the most success, and I think it's just the way the platform is set up. It lends itself to do some work with technology and then also in the DMs. But I think on Instagram right now we have a little over 22,000 followers. And on average, we reach about 300,000 people a month, assuming that we're consistent with the postings. The goal is to really ramp up the ads right now, because I think the ads for us is going to be the next step in kind of scaling.
And are you present on YouTube, TikTok, the other platforms as well?
I am. I think on TikTok, we've had a couple posts that have gotten like 1 million views, but it's not as prominent as Instagram, I think. So on Instagram, you don't have to respond to all the messages. The technology can do it. On TikTok, you have to manually respond. And I'm not good at like manually responding because I'm busy with other things. So on Instagram, it plays well because the technology does the work. I think on TikTok, we have something like 5,000 followers. And we do get messages, but I use TikTok mostly to test things. So I'll post a piece of content there. If it does well on TikTok, then I know it'll do well on Instagram. YouTube, I just started. I have two different YouTube channels. I have a YouTube channel that's geared towards the real estate community. So what I do there is I interview top agents, kind of like this, but agents all over the country that are doing really well. And then I send it to the real estate community so they can see what other agents are doing that works right now. And then I have a YouTube channel for consumers. I haven't done really well on that because I'm not consistent with it. And that's once I kind of set up my team, I'll be able to spend more time on that. But there I explain like down payment assistance programs or just mortgage programs in a more detailed manner, right? Like there's a lot of programs people don't know about that for whatever reason we don't talk about, right? Like renovation loans. You ever see those houses and it says like cash only? Well, people think that you have to buy them cash, but there's programs where you can buy them with just 3% down. And then the bank will even lend you money to fix them up. So you can buy this house that's a major fixer with 3% down and then borrow $100,000 to pay it. And there's even a program where they'll let you borrow money to make the mortgage payments while the house is being fixed. So for 1 year, you're not even making payments because you're fixing it up.
That's awesome. And YouTube, I know I'm picking on content, and we want to talk more about real estate down the line. But just to give the audience a complete picture. So you on Instagram, you have few extremely viral videos, but on average, every reel that you post gets a substantial amount of views. But YouTube is a completely different beast. And you said that you have two different channels. Why you had two channels and not consolidate into one and use playlists or to separate the different things that you talk about?
That's something that I haven't really dove into deeply on YouTube. There is a company that once I have the bandwidth to do it, I will connect with them so that they can coach me on it. And I think that's one thing for your audience, especially if there's business owners looking. Like there's always shortcuts, right? Anything that you want to do, someone's probably already done it. And there, in the world that we live in right now, there's programs and like classes or videos that you can watch to learn it. It's the thing is having the time to do it and being consistent, right? So YouTube is something that I put together. I don't mix them. So I guess I can answer the question for Instagram. I'm a loan officer, and a lot of loan officers, one of the mistakes that they make is they want to make content for everyone, right? I'll give you a perfect example. There's a friend of mine who is a lawyer. He's not even a loan officer. And I like him because he's a friend of mine, and I follow their channel because he's a friend of mine. Whenever I see their content, I would always try to engage with it because I know it's going to help his platform. But one day, his partner is Chinese. And one day they started to create content in Chinese, but I don't speak Chinese. So what happened is I stopped engaging with their content because I don't know what they're saying. Well, it only took about a week for me to stop seeing his content altogether, right? And the mistake that he made is he made content for a small audience and he put the rest of the world in this little bucket where we can't understand it. So he lost a lot of people, right? So if I make all my content in English and one day I make a Spanish video, people who don't speak Spanish are going to ignore my video, right? And it's going to confuse my audience.
And it's going to go out of their feed.
Correct. So you want to know who your audience is before you post anything. Because, right, if we're all over the place, we're going to mute some people.
Because I'm in that kind of dilemma right now. So I have a YouTube channel. And on that YouTube, when I started doing content, I started doing podcasts about AI and the implications of AI, because this was my degree in college. I graduated with information systems and ChatGPT and all of that. I was fascinated by the whole thing. So I started interviewing professors. So I had professors on. We talk about all sorts of implications of this technology on everything. And then I realized that, I need to have a business and interviewing professors, with all my respect and love for professors, but there's no business results from doing content for that unless the content is too good or I get a celebrity or something. So I switched towards business. I've done advertising and marketing all my career, 15 plus years. And so I thought that this is my zone of genius. I know a lot about this field. let me start helping other entrepreneurs and business owners with that stuff. So right now we offer like a content creation service that is included with that studio. So we help entrepreneurs create content for their business. And the interview with me would be the first kind of step to get their feet wet kind of thing. And then after that, they can create their own show, or they can do talking head videos or whatever. We have all the ecosystem to help entrepreneurs build content. But the thing is, I was struggling to determine whether to put the business content on the same channel of the AI content. And I did that. I mean, it did not hurt me much. I think I get more views right now with my business content compared to the AI content. But right now I'm thinking, well, I'm building that new series that's called Do We Have a Case? It's a legal series interviewing multiple lawyers and asking them questions about cases. So the question is, do I start a new channel for that? Or do I put it as a playlist within my own channel so that it kind of take from the existing momentum that I have? And in the same token, we are creating other types of content. And always I'm having the question is, should I keep it in the same channel, or should I create it separate and start from zero? Because the idea of starting from zero scares me. That's basically, but what do you think? What's your advice to me?
I've seen people who start brand new channels, and as long as you're consistent with the content and the content is good, you can grow relatively fast, right? On any platform. But again, I'm not an expert or even close on YouTube. There is a book called YouTube Secrets have you read it?
I think so.
I read that some time ago, and I just never, again, I haven't been consistent, but that was a good book. And there's a couple of, the guy that wrote YouTube Secrets, his name's Sean. He does a class for people that are trying to get into YouTube. So that might be a resource for you, right? I haven't taken a deep dive into YouTube yet.
Sounds good. All right. So let's talk about the consumer out there. There could be a business owner or any regular person who want to buy a house in California. We're here recording in Banning, and thanks to your content, I learned that Banning, the city of Banning, offers a $20,000 grant. Could you talk more about these deals that people are unaware of that your content usually help solve? And what are the top hot matters in the industry right now?
Yeah, well, I mean, the interest rates are super volatile, right? So everybody's kind of wondering what's going to happen there. But in terms of the programs, it's really interesting because it's kind of a secret, right? But there's a few cities that put together their own programs. Some of them, like Banning, has a grant for 20 grand. Long Beach had one for 25,000 and then went down to 20. There's West Covina has one for 20, where my office is. And then there's some that are loans, but some are really big, right? Like the Azusa one, that's one of the most popular ones that people call on, is 200,000. Like that's the limit. And then there's even some county programs, right? Like LA County, I think, has one for 160, Riverside, like 100,000. I think the challenge with those is that it's not very difficult. They have made it difficult because they're not for everyone. They're typically for people that are low income or something's happening. But because they're kind of quirky, a lot of real estate agents and mortgage people don't want to do the legwork behind them, right? So when a client asks, they just say, "Oh no, those programs are tough." But the crazy thing is that it's not impossible to get them. It's very hard, but not impossible. So one day, I used to always ignore them just like everybody else. And I said, well, what if we just learn these and create a little bit of content so that people know that they exist? Now, mind you, most people don't qualify for them. But giving them the information, I always think, what if you thought you couldn't get it and you do get it and it changes your life?
Wow.
Right? And all it takes is 20 minutes for me to swift through the website or the guidelines to see if it works. And even crazier now is I know most of them, so I can tell very easily if it's going to work for someone from the beginning. So what we started to do is just market those programs, which again, nobody likes to do. And I think that's very, people tend to trust you when you're giving them the information that no one wants to give, even if it's not something that they can do. But even like those are really big programs. What a lot of people don't realize is like the state programs are really easy to get, right? Like almost everyone qualifies for those.
Oh,
And
really?
they're not as big, but they're very easy to get. So like for instance, there's a program through the state of California where if you're a school employee, it's a grant for, or it's a forgivable, they'll lend you up to 5.5%, but 1.5% of that becomes forgivable at closing. So the teacher that just bought a $600,000 home, right, in Riverside, she got 9 grand that at the end of the transaction, it's forgivable. Like we'll never talk about that $9,000 again, right?
Wow.
Why wouldn't we get that for them? It's like one little extra step that, quite honestly, I don't do it myself. The team on the back end does that extra step, right? But now that we know the program exists, we can offer it to teachers, we can offer it to firefighters, first responders, school, anybody that's a school employee, police officers. So, like, why wouldn't we offer that if it's there, right? And there's a bunch of them like that are super easy to get.
You mentioned the team. How big is your team?
Well, our team is not huge now, but our corporate office backs us up a lot. So there's 5 of us in the office, and then the corporate office, I don't know, there's probably like 100 people over there.
So, do you mind saying what is the company or?
Yeah, so the company I work for is Golden Empire Mortgage, and my team, we run a DBA. So we're Super Mortgage Brothers, or Golden Empire Mortgage doing business as Super Mortgage Brothers.
Right. So you have your own business within that big business kind of thing?
Yeah, we run a branch. My wife and I run a
Branch.
branch, and then my brother is part of the branch. So we kind of branded it as Super Mortgage Brothers a few
Love
years
it.
ago. Yeah.
And it's funny that your social channels do not mention, maybe in the bio that I didn't pay attention to, but you always brand yourself as Armando. So is there a lot of business owners that I work with tell me, oh no, the Instagram should be the name of the company versus the name of the person. Why didn't you brand your content from the company name and not your name?
So I think of my own behavior and the behavior of people who I know. And if you think like more people follow Elon Musk than they follow Tesla, right? More people follow Jeff Bezos than they follow Amazon, right? We tend to not want to follow entities. We want to get to know people, right? And it's social. I don't follow many business pages. I only follow people that I know and people that I want to follow, right? So if I know that, and we have a page for that, Super Mortgage Bros, but no one follows it, right? But it's also because most businesses use the social media as a billboard rather as a social, right? Imagine if we went to a party. This is what real estate agents do. If we went to a party and there's like 20 people here, and I'm a real estate agent, and I walk up to you just randomly and say, check out my new listing. And then I walk to the next one, I say, I just reduced the price of 123 Banana Street. And then I come to the next person and I say, I just sold this house $20,000 above market, right? No one would want to talk to me at the end of the night. That's a social gathering. This is social media, right? So if I come up and all I'm doing is bragging or boasting or using it as a billboard, most people will be repelled by me, just like if I did it at a social gathering. So what I try to do is make it all about the audience versus about me or my business. Here's how you can do this. Here's how you can get this. And people don't really care about me. They care about them.
Yeah. I do some consulting work for the SBA, for the SBDC. And there was some sort of, I advise clients exactly what you said. I tell the clients, oh, you have a coffee shop, create content with your own name, not with the coffee shop name. And so on and so forth. And some clients, like, they get it. Okay, they agree with me and they get it. Some other clients who see multiple consultants, they will come to me and I would tell them that. They will go to the other marketing consultant and the other marketing is like, who told you that? This is not right. Yeah. And they push them back to go with their brand name, with their company name. And I'm glad that you confirmed that what I thought about was correct. I think I noticed that I also follow a lot of people, but sometimes it gets tricky, especially when you do, for example, podcast stuff or media channel work. And for example, it's you want to brand a podcast because you want people to find it and follow it. And it's hard to, for example, use my name as a podcast. I mean, maybe I'm just overthinking it, but my name is Naja Faisal. I started doing the channel name under Naja Faisal. But then I realized, oh, maybe I should just do it IEBN, Inland Empire Business Network, and then IEBN podcast, and then people will remember that name and they want to listen to the IEBN podcast. And it's a lot. Joe Rogan uses his name, but there are a lot of other famous podcasts who use another brand, like My First Million or something. They have a different name for that, especially when you have more complex structures. So yeah, I'm just a little bit confused between these two.
Yeah, I would do trial and error.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe you can do IEBN with Naja, right? And add your name into it and brand your face as well.
Right.
You're in every episode.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'll try that.
Yeah.
But I haven't broken into the podcast game yet. So
yeah, that's another thing, with podcasts. You cannot be too scripted on podcasts. And that probably, and also it's a little bit monotone. So if you're, again, to your point about changing locations and props and stuff, I kind of find that when people are scrolling and they see a video, because every episode we cut it down into multiple shorts. And so these shorts kind of look the same. So if someone watched one, they'll feel less likely to watch the other. So that puts pressure on us to produce more new episodes with not as many shorts as we want. So it's just we're still figuring it out kind of thing.
I would try to start the short with the guest so that people are thinking, who is this person, right? If it starts for short form, if it's always you starting, right? So your face is the first thing they see, they might think, I already saw this. But if you start with the guest, then they're thinking, who is this person, right? Whoever your guest is. And then they might be more likely to watch.
Yeah.
And then I would keep those short. The challenge is a lot of times we try to make it very long. And especially when it's unscripted, like we get long-winded sometimes.
Yeah.
At least I do. Right? So we want to make sure that the edits are going to keep people on the platform.
Correct. Are you planning to go into the podcast game?
I'm not sure yet. Right now, we're kind of rebuilding our team, and I'm doing a lot more work than I'm used to doing. So as we start to hire and ramp up again, more time will free up, and eventually. But I really want to go more towards scaling the marketing that we're doing, so that we can kind of change the entire landscape of our business, and I can leverage my time better.
With the current audience that you have, how much business are you getting from your social media?
We're getting a lot. Most of my business right now comes from social. And the really cool thing is I kind of flip the script. See, for loan officers, usually we beg realtors to send us business, right? So loan officers are calling real estate agents all of the time. I still call some. They go to open houses, and basically we're like the order takers for the real estate agents. And I didn't quite like that. Even though I did that for a long time, I didn't like that, because then you kind of have to be available 24 hours a day. If the phone rings and you don't pick up, they just call the next lender. Like, there's not a lot of loyalty, and there shouldn't be, right? I'm not saying that that's wrong. If I call my insurance agent and they don't pick up, I have to close the deal. I'm going to call the next agent. So I don't blame real estate agents when they do that. I just didn't like being on the other side of that. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to generate my own business. And in our field, what people do is they buy leads from companies like Redfin or Zillow. But there's two things: is those companies are trying to put us out of business because they're doing it now, right?
Yeah.
And then the second thing is those leads are expensive. It used to be for us that you can buy a Zillow lead for like $20. Now a Zillow lead is about $130, and they give it to multiple people. So not only am I calling that person that I just paid $130 for, there's 3 other of my competitors calling them, and I just thought, like, there's got to be a better way. Then I went to a company that I paid to do marketing for me, and they were running ads through Meta. But from our $2,000 budget, like almost $1,300 was just their fee. So like $705 was my actual ad spend, and I just thought, like, no, we got to do something different. It's too much. So I hired a coach to teach me how to run ads myself. And I said, I'm going to do it myself. And instead of spending $2,000 on them, I'm going to spend $2,000 on ads. So right now we're trying to figure out, or the process is tweaking and testing on what ads work the best. And then we're going to launch those ads and really just leverage it. But what it's done for me is I no longer have to be available 24/7 because now I have the business, right? So people come to me when they want to sell their house or when they want to buy their house or when they want to refinance their house. And part of my process is, I know the best real estate agents. I will connect you with someone who's been vetted. So now I get real estate agents who randomly call me because they know I have the leads and I have the contacts. And then I get to feed the agents who have been feeding me business, right? So it's become a different dynamic because I don't have to be available 24 hours a day. Like I have enough business to where if it doesn't work, I don't have to take it, right? I still do because I want to close as much as I can. But I'm a little bit more selective on how I do business and I get to enjoy my time a little more.
That's awesome. Have you been building your email list? So when people comment to get the checklist or whatever, do you send them to a sign up page or no?
Yeah, absolutely. So our goal is to get them from DM to CRM as soon as possible because TikTok can get banned. I think we have 2 days before they get banned again when we're recording this. Or I had a Facebook account that was I had it for a long time, and one day I got hacked. And I got hacked. They billed a bunch of money on my credit card, and because I filed a fraud claim, Facebook canceled my account, and I can't get it back. Like it's impossible to connect with them. Nobody would connect, and I figured like that can happen again, right? Or that can happen with one of my other platforms. So my goal is to take as many people that are my followers and get them into my email list, because then like our funnel goes through a home buyer webinar, right? So we market, we give them a list, we give them the properties, and the goal is to invite them to the home buyer workshop where we teach them how to buy a house. We teach them about all of the programs. At the end of the workshop, if they want to move forward, then the only call to action is book a meeting with me, right? And it's not even a meeting, it's a phone call. And like it's a very informal phone call. So I'm not trying to like convince anyone or anything like that. That phone call just says, are you in the market? Do the numbers work? And do we like each other? And at the end of that phone call, we decide if we're going to work together on the next step. But it works out really well because the technology does most of the work, right? We had a workshop last week. I didn't lift a finger, and we had 14 people that came to the workshop and 4 that booked appointments with me. So it's really cool when like the technology works that while I'm sleeping, leads are coming in, and now it's just a matter of scaling that. I'm very excited about marketing because I see the possibilities.
My friend, you're a marketer before a mortgage officer.
Yeah.
You know all the things that we preach about as marketing professionals. Curious to know, what CRM have you chosen?
So in the real estate business, there's a CRM called Follow Up Boss, and we use that for our day-to-day just tracking of clients, kind of a conversation log. We keep track of everything once the consumer is there. But for all of our marketing, we use Go High Level. Yeah, so Go High Level builds landing pages for us. It does all the automations and the follow-up.
Few questions before we go. Content-wise, who do you follow? Who do you consume? Like Alex Hormozy or somebody else? Or
Now, Alex is amazing. He's one of the smartest guys out there. So I listen to everything I can with Alex. I'm a big fan of Russell Brunson. But what I find is like everyone in marketing, it all ties back to one person. You know who that is? No? Dan Kennedy.
Dan Kennedy. Of course I know what
everyone I follow leads back to Dan Kennedy. So I'm a huge fan of Dan Kennedy.
Wow. He's old now, right?
He is old, yeah. But his stuff still works.
Wow. And I feel like marketing always gotta evolve because human behavior adapt to marketing messages. So, you start doing a method, let's say VSL, video sales letter or whatever, and then everybody start doing it, and then it loses effectiveness somehow. And then you have to up the quality game, up the hooks again, the whole thing with the content. So it's a continuous effort to chase the next big thing in marketing. And so, yeah, that's
an
cool.
evolution.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to coaches, you mentioned that you invest in coaches. So you believe in paid coaching.
Yeah, I don't know, somewhere early in life, I think I was 17 years old. I was very lucky. I got introduced to the Mike Ferry organization, who's big in real estate. And I went to a workshop, and one of the speakers, I was maybe 17 or 18, and he said, if you want to learn from someone and you don't have the money, just ask them to lunch. And I just thought, like, what a simple thing, right? Just ask them to lunch. So at the break, I walked up to him and said, hey, can I take you to lunch? He ended up buying me lunch, but I think he appreciated that I actually followed the system. I'm still kind of in contact with the guy. I joined his mastermind group last year, and I don't even know if he realizes like what an impact he had with that lunch conversation. And the interesting thing, it was very awkward because I was young and I didn't really know what to say, and I was kind of a little starstruck by this guy that I just thought was so amazing. So the lunch was a little awkward, but I think it changed everything because since then I always seek out people that are doing things and I try to like learn from them. And then like most recently now I've even bartered with ideas where like, hey, you do this well, I do this well, let's mastermind together. And it's been really well. But any mastermind group that I can join or any coaching that I know is doing well, I'll try to get involved with.
And you invest, like you don't shy away from going like those $20,000 mastermind groups and stuff.
I invest more money than my wife would like to know. Yes.
Wow, and it's worth it for you.
You know, what's in your head, no one can take. And some of these people, I mean, they're so smart, right? And you might pay them 20 grand, but that 20 grand gives you like millions of dollars of information that they've compiled, right? Like I figure I've probably spent in just like learning this marketing thing a couple $100,000 in the last few years. And if I sit with someone for 2 hours, I can give them only the highlights. Like imagine, I don't charge people for this, but if I charge someone 5 grand for the information that it cost me 200 grand to learn, and I'm only giving them the best things, like how cool is that? So I just think if I pay someone 20 grand, it probably costs them 2 million to learn whatever they're teaching me.
Wow,
Right? It's just like
that's great insight.
It's a hack.
Yeah,
Right?
shortcut is time or money.
Correct.
And yes, there's a lot of content on the internet for free, but maybe not as in depth as when you
talk to someone.
talk to
Right?
someone.
Yeah, if you can join a mastermind for someone big, if you have the means to do it, I say do it.
Right. Books, audiobooks.
So if I always do audiobook because I drive, I run, I walk, and I listen to stuff. But I have this weird habit where if I really like an audiobook, I'll buy the book and I'll read it. And there's some books that I've read multiple times. On my way here, there's a book that I love. And it's one of those random things where I'll open it to a random page and it always speaks to me. There's always something that I learn from it. Or if I'm on audio, I'll just like do one of those things and stop it. And whatever chapter it stops on, I'll listen to. I've probably read or heard that book 8 or 9 times.
What's that book?
I was waiting for it. The name of the book is The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. It's not a marketing book. It's not a sales book. It's more of a like a spiritual book, if you will. But it always tends to speak to me. So on the way here, I heard that. I heard one of the chapters, and I thought, wow, that was great. Right? So it's a great book.
Wow. How old are you now?
I'm 43. Yeah.
You don't look 43.
Thank you.
That's good for social media, right?
Yeah.
Is there anything that I didn't ask you?
Well, I know a lot of your audience is business owners. Is there anything that we can give of value to some of the business owners that are here local other than social media, maybe some business systems or anything like that you think would be valuable?
I think what you mentioned about creating content and the process that you do and that you follow is absolutely golden. The only other thing I always talk about is knowing your numbers. Like, for example, the cost of customer acquisition, the CAC. Alex Hormozy talks a lot about this. Knowing your CAC is vital. And then knowing your LTV as well, the limited lifetime value of your customer. And I think these are the only 2 numbers that you need to know about your marketing efforts. Like, what is your cost of acquiring that customer and what is the value of that customer? And keeping that as your North Star in your marketing engine would pay a lot of dividend to you, because once you have these numbers top of mind, you know if any marketing activity is worth it for you or not. You will know how to evaluate your strategy. You know how to basically lead your team towards success, because you know that because in marketing, as you probably know, there's always a new shiny object out there. I get clients who are always chasing, oh, there's that, and there's this, and there's that. And I'm always like, okay, let's calculate. Let's sit down and see. Yesterday, I was on a call with a client, and they were like, voice search. I was like, I didn't know what voice search is. I know that everybody's speaking to Siri and Alexa and whatnot, but I didn't know that there's a specific optimization for voice. After digging, I think it's just a scam. I mean, if people are watching and know more than I do, please correct me in the comments. But from the research that I did, I mean, all of these engines, they transcribe the voice into text, and they use Bing, they use Google, they use Yelp to find out information and give it to you. So optimizing for voice is kind of like a fag or something that people are used to get customers. So marketers are always under pressure with all of this new shiny things that they need. But I think what you mentioned is absolutely important, is that idea of value, of delivering value day in and day out, is proven to be of a great success. What do you think?
So we haven't really spent money on ads, so I don't have a cost per acquisition. Maybe if I factor in the cost to edit and the cost to shoot, which I haven't done.
And the time
Correct.
that you're putting.
So maybe that's something that I need to revisit and figure out, like, what is our actual cost of acquisition. Right now, I imagine it's relatively low because we're not running ads the way we're going to. But maybe if you ask me that in 6 months, I'll have a better answer. Because technically, I kind of see them as all organic right now because we haven't spent much on ads. But I think ads is definitely the next level because you can reach far more people. The one thing that I think has worked out really well for us is that our ads don't look like ads, and they're packed with value, and there is an incentive for them to be shared, right? That's something that's really key right now on social. Is if you can get people to push that share button and send it to someone, the platform will really reward you. So try to make your ads look like organic content with a really, really soft call to action. And the soft call to action looks like I'm just giving them value, right? It's not about me, right? So what everyone in my industry does is like, oh, come get pre-approved today, right? But nobody wants to get pre-approved. Like, just think you just bought a house. Think of how intrusive it is, right? Like when you give somebody all of your bank statements and your tax returns, like getting undressed in front of someone, man. So
True.
It's not appealing to say, hey, come and get pre-approved at this, home buyer workshop. But if we say, hey, I'm going to put this workshop together where I'm going to go over all of these programs and people don't even know about them.
Yeah.
Right. And I'm not selling anything. I'm just giving you information. So come by. When they come to that workshop, their guard is down, right?
Yeah.
I didn't ask them to bring their tax returns. We're not going to run your credit. And then at the end of the workshop, when they realize, hey, I didn't sell you anything, they're more likely to come meet with me because they don't feel that, we call it commission breath, right? Like they don't smell the commission breath. So in anyone doing any sort of business, I think that's the shift that the world is looking for. Because people are smart.
Yes.
Right? And no one wants to see an ad.
Nobody wants to be sold to. I always tell my clients, people want to do business with others that they know, like, and trust. These are three magical words, and you can dig into each one of them, and you're doing all of the right things. People want to know you before they do business with you. So you need to be visible. You need to be present in their sphere, whether they're on social or anywhere else. So they want to know you, and then they want to like you. You mentioned on the call that you go on with your clients, you mentioned in the end, like, yeah, I mean, we need to like each other to work with each other, right?
Yeah.
You cannot work with someone who absolutely cannot stand. So, and then the last one, which is very important, they need to trust you. They need to know that you're not only there to get that commission. I always refer to the example of, would you go to a doctor who is very qualified, but has no ethics, has no moral values? So maybe he would tell you need an operation, but you don't really need it. Even if he's expert in operating on you, but you cannot trust him. And trust is that glue that put everything in together. So I think know, like, and trust is a great recipe for doing business.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And I had a lot of fun in that conversation.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Cheers. Thank you.